investment. Most people believe that saving a large portion of their income is only possible for high earners, executives, or people with six-figure salaries. But here's the truth. Saving isn't about how much you make. It's about how much you keep. Imagine being able to save 80% of your income, even if you're on what most people would call a low salary. At first, it sounds impossible, but it's not. In fact, with the right mindset and systems in place, you can make it happen faster than you think. This isn't about living like a monk or cutting every joy out of your life. It's about creating financial freedom by making intentional decisions that stretch every dollar, eliminate waste, and grow your savings at a rate most people will never experience. If you're willing to challenge the traditional way people live, paycheck to paycheck, then you can flip the script and build real wealth. No matter where you're starting from, most people don't realize that the way they structure their lifestyle is the single biggest factor determining whether they'll ever be able to save a significant portion of their income. When someone hears about saving 80% of their salary, the first thought is usually, that's impossible on what I make. But in reality, the biggest obstacle is not the size of the paycheck. It's the hidden expenses and lifestyle choices that quietly drain money without ever adding lasting value. Housing, transportation, and food usually account for the majority of spending. And once those areas are redefined with intention, even a low income can suddenly feel like it stretches much further than expected. The strategy begins with reshaping what normal looks like. For example, most people believe they need a certain type of apartment, a car that looks presentable, and the convenience of dining out or ordering food multiple times a week. Each of those decisions is influenced more by social expectations than by personal necessity. Downsizing an apartment, sharing living space, or even living in a less expensive neighborhood can instantly cut rent in half. That's hundreds of dollars each month saved without having to make dozens of small sacrifices elsewhere. Transportation is another major leap. The average car payment today is equivalent to what some people could be saving every single month. Financing a new car, paying for insurance on that car, and covering constant depreciation is one of the fastest ways to stay broke. Switching to a reliable used car, biking, or using public transportation might not sound glamorous, but it eliminates one of the largest recurring costs in most people's budgets. When you frame these decisions around freedom rather than status, investment, they become empowering instead of limiting. Food is another category where silent spending adds up more than people realize. Grabbing a coffee in the morning, lunch during work, investment, and ordering dinner after a long day might seem like small conveniences, but multiplied by 30 days, it's often more than a person's rent. The alternative is meal prepping, bulk shopping, and cooking at home. Investment. Not only does this slash costs dramatically, but it also puts you in control of your nutrition and health. Preparing a week's worth of meals might take a few hours on Sunday, but it saves time and money during the week. Over the course of a year, yes, this single change can free up thousands of dollars. And here's the important thing. None of these strategies mean you can't enjoy life. They simply mean you're being strategic about where your money goes. You're cutting in areas that don't truly improve your happiness and redirecting that money toward a bigger goal, financial independence. Beyond these three categories, investment, there are dozens of hidden expenses that most people overlook because they've normalized them. Subscription services are one of the best examples. A few dollars a month for streaming, a couple of dollars for music, a handful of app subscriptions. It doesn't feel like much, but when you step back, it can easily be 100 or more, draining silently every single month. Eliminating or consolidating subscriptions is a painless way to keep more of your income without feeling deprived. The same goes for impulse purchases made online or at the store. Marketing is designed to make you feel like you need the latest product, but most of these purchases lose their appeal within weeks, leaving behind only wasted money. By becoming conscious of these triggers, you can break free from that cycle. The key to redefining lifestyle isn't to strip everything away. It's to question the default. If most people around you are living paycheck to paycheck, financing cars they can't afford, and constantly upgrading their lifestyle as soon as they earn more, do you really want to follow that same path? Or do you want to step outside the norm and use your income as a tool to create options for your future? When you choose the latter, every expense gets measured against a simple standard. Does this purchase bring me closer to financial freedom or push it further away? Suddenly, cutting rent, driving a paid-off car, and cooking at home doesn't feel like sacrifice. It feels like progress. Over time, these intentional decisions compound. Cutting $500 from housing, $300 from transportation, and $200 from food each month adds up to $1 in savings every 30 days. That's a $12 in a year, which for many people represents 50% or more of their salary. With a few side income opportunities added in, suddenly reaching the goal of saving 80% becomes realistic, even on what others consider a low wage. The foundation of this journey always comes back to redefining lifestyle and cutting hidden expenses. Investment. By designing a life that costs less without lowering your quality of living, you create space for wealth to grow. And when you realize how much control you actually have over where your money goes, you'll see that saving 80% isn't an unrealistic dream. It's simply a choice to live differently than most people. Most people approach saving money in the wrong order. They get paid, cover their bills, investment, spend freely on whatever feels important in the moment, and then try to save whatever is left over. The problem is that by the time the month ends, there's usually nothing left. This system guarantees failure because it treats saving as optional instead of essential. The only way to consistently build wealth and actually reach the point of saving 80% of your income is to flip the formula. You pay yourself first and spend what's left. That means before you pay a single bill, before you buy a single meal, and before you even think about discretionary spending, you automatically send a large portion of your paycheck into savings or investments. It's a non-negotiable system that puts your future first. This method works because it takes decision making out of the equation. Willpower is unreliable, and if you rely on it to save, you'll always find reasons to spend. Automation removes that risk. The moment money hits your account, a predetermined percentage, whether that's 50%, 60%, investment, or the ultimate goal of 80%, is whisked away into an account you don't touch for day-to-day expenses. This might be a high-yield savings account, an index fund, or even a retirement account, depending on your goals. Once it's gone, you don't see it as available cash anymore, and your brain adjusts to living on what remains. Living on only 20% of your income might sound restrictive, but it's actually liberating. When you know exactly how much you have to work with, investment, you get creative. You prioritize what matters most and cut out what doesn't. Suddenly, you stop wasting money on things you don't even remember buying a week later. You start appreciating the value of the essentials, and you gain control over your finances instead of letting your finances control you. What's powerful about this strategy is how quickly it scales. Even if you start by automating just 20% or 30% of your income, the system is in place. Over time, as your expenses shrink or your income grows, you can gradually increase that percentage until you reach the 80% mark. By then, saving has become second nature, and you don't feel like you're giving anything up because your lifestyle has already adapted. Another reason this works is because it flips the way most people think about money. Normally, people treat spending as the default and saving as the leftover. Here, saving is the default and spending is what's left. It forces efficiency. When you only have 20% of your income to work with, you naturally start questioning every purchase. Do you really need that subscription? Do you really need to buy new clothes this month? Do you really need to eat out 3 times a week? Living on less creates an environment where only the most meaningful expenses survive. The rest falls away without much resistance. Psychologically, this also builds discipline without feeling like a constant struggle. Instead of trying to resist temptation every time you see money sitting in your account, you simply never see it there in the first place. What you don't see, you don't miss. This is why automation is so powerful. It removes the daily decision fatigue and replaces it with a structure that runs in the background while you focus on living your life. Over time, when this creates an identity shift, you stop seeing yourself as someone who struggles to save and start seeing yourself as someone who is disciplined, strategic, and in control. It's important to also understand that paying yourself first isn't just about hoarding money. It's about giving every dollar a job. That money you save isn't sitting idle, it's working for you. It might be growing in a savings account, investment, earning returns in investments, or building a safety net that ensures you never have to panic in an emergency. Every time you automate money toward your future, you're buying back freedom. Freedom from debt, freedom from financial stress, investment, and eventually freedom to choose how you spend your time. Now, reaching 80% savings will likely require some major adjustments at first. But the beauty of automation is that once you set the system up, it becomes normal. Think about taxes. When money is withheld from your paycheck, you don't spend weeks agonizing about it because you never see that money. It's just gone. Paying yourself first works the same way, except instead of going to the government, that money goes to you. The faster you normalize this habit, the faster you build the momentum that makes 80% savings not just a goal, but a way of life. At the end of the day, the ability to save isn't determined by income level alone. It's determined by systems, discipline, and priorities. Most people will always spend everything they earn because they haven't learned to prioritize savings above all else. By automating your savings first and forcing yourself to live on the remainder, you put yourself in a category most people never reach. You take control of your financial future, and with enough time and consistency, you achieve what others call impossible, saving 80% of your income, even without a massive salary. When most people hear the idea of saving 80% of their income, their immediate thought is, that's impossible unless I make a lot of money. And to be fair, on a very low salary, Investment. Trying to carve out that much from your paycheck can feel unrealistic at first glance. But here's the hidden truth. You don't need a high salary to reach that target. You need to increase your income while keeping your expenses flat. That is the single most important distinction that separates people who save a small percentage from those who save the majority of what they earn. The trap most people fall into is lifestyle inflation. Every time their income rises, so do their expenses. They move to a nicer apartment, upgrade their car, eat out more often, and buy things they never even considered before. As a result, even though they're technically earning more, they never actually save more. Breaking that cycle is how you create the financial breathing room that makes extreme savings possible. The strategy begins with recognizing that your expenses should not automatically scale with your income. Imagine you're currently living on $2,000 a month and making it work. If you suddenly earn an extra $500 through a side hustle, the natural instinct might be to spend it. After all, you earned it. But if you instead save that entire $500, you've just boosted your savings rate dramatically without changing your lifestyle at all. Repeat this process a few times with additional income streams, and suddenly you're saving thousands each year while your day-to-day life looks almost the same. The difference is that you're building wealth instead of chasing consumption. There are countless ways to grow income, investment, even if you're starting from a low base. Side hustles like freelancing, tutoring, ride-sharing, content creation, or online services can often bring in hundreds of extra dollars a month with just a few hours of effort each week. If you're working a regular job, pursuing skills that lead to promotions or higher paying opportunities can also make a big difference over time. The important part is that every additional dollar you earn isn't treated as spending money, but rather saving money. The moment you start viewing extra income as fuel for financial independence instead of permission to upgrade your lifestyle, everything changes. The second layer of this strategy involves efficiency. Let's say you manage to increase your income by $1,000 a month. If your lifestyle remains exactly the same, that $1,000 goes directly into savings. At first, that might represent 20% or 30% of your total income. But as your income continues to grow while expenses remain flat, the percentage you're able to save increases exponentially. Eventually, saving 80% doesn't require any additional sacrifice. It's simply the math of earning significantly more than you spend. The people who achieve this are not necessarily the ones with the highest paying jobs, but rather those who resist the temptation to inflate their lifestyle with every pay increase. There's also a psychological advantage here. As you build new income streams, you begin to feel less dependent on your primary job. That freedom alone reduces stress and gives you options. If you have a side hustle covering your rent, for example, investment, you're no longer tied down by the fear of losing your main source of income. This peace of mind is valuable in itself, but when combined with aggressive saving, it accelerates your path toward financial independence in a way most people never experience. One of the biggest misconceptions is that saving large amounts requires deprivation. In reality, it's about substitution and mindset. Investment, you're not giving up joy, you're redirecting it. Instead of buying the newest phone or dining out 5 nights a week, you might choose to find joy in the freedom of knowing you're stacking away thousands each year. Instead of constantly chasing the next material purchase, you're watching your savings grow and realizing that every extra dollar brings you closer to never having to worry about money again. Investment, that mindset shift is more powerful than any short-term luxury. It's also worth noting that the process of keeping expenses flat becomes easier with systems in place. For example, when you get a raise or extra income from a side hustle, you can immediately automate it into savings before you ever touch it. That way, you never feel like you lost something because you never counted on that money in the first place. Over time, as your savings grow, you'll find yourself motivated to earn more because you see the tangible results of every dollar being put to work. It becomes a positive feedback loop where higher income leads to higher savings, which leads to faster financial growth, investment, which motivates you to push your income even further. Ultimately, the reason most people never reach high savings rates isn't because they can't. It's because they refuse to keep their expenses steady when their income rises. If you can break that cycle, even a modest salary can become the foundation for extraordinary savings. Every raise, every side hustle, every bonus becomes another lever you pull to accelerate toward 80% savings. And when you stay disciplined enough to keep your expenses flat while your income grows, you'll find that the impossible suddenly becomes achievable. Saving 80% isn't about restriction, it's about creating a gap so wide between income and expenses that financial freedom is inevitable. One of the biggest challenges when it comes to saving money is not the math, it's the psychology. On paper, saving 80% of your income can look straightforward, reduce expenses, increase income, and automate savings. But in practice, the biggest obstacle is human behavior. We are constantly surrounded by temptations to spend. Advertisements are designed to trigger emotions. Social media normalizes lifestyles far beyond our means, and our brains are wired to seek instant gratification rather than long-term reward. Investment. This is why building systems that eliminate impulse spending is absolutely essential. Without these systems, even the best budget can be derailed by a few unplanned purchases each month. With them, you gain control over your spending habits in a way that makes saving nearly effortless. Impulse spending often starts with convenience. It's easy to click buy now when your card is already stored on a website. It's easy to grab coffee on the way to work or add an extra item to your grocery basket when it's right in front of you. These little choices might feel harmless in the moment, but they add up to hundreds or even thousands of dollars each year. That's why one of the simplest and most effective systems you can put in place is friction. By deleting saved payment methods from websites, keeping only one debit card on hand, or even using cash for discretionary categories, you create just enough resistance to make every purchase intentional. That small pause between wanting something and actually paying for it is often enough to stop you from wasting money. Another powerful system is the 24-hour rule. Before buying anything non-essential, you wait at least one full day. This gives your brain time to step out of emotional decision-making and back into rational thought. More often than not, the urge to buy disappears once the initial excitement wears off. What felt urgent yesterday feels unnecessary today. This simple practice alone can save thousands each year, and it requires no budgeting skills, just patience. For larger purchases, extending this rule to a week or even a month can prevent regret and ensure that your money is going toward things you truly value. Subscriptions are another silent drain on savings that require a system to control. Most people don't even know how many they're paying for. Music, streaming apps, software, all of these services are designed to slip under your radar because the charges are small and automatic. The system here is simple. Every 3 months, review your bank statement line by line and cancel anything you haven't used consistently. Better yet, set a recurring reminder on your calendar to do this check-up. You'll be surprised how many forgotten charges disappear, and the savings add up immediately without any change in your quality of life. There's also the social aspect of spending to consider. Many people overspend not because they want something, but because they feel pressure to keep up with friends, colleagues, or family. Saying yes to every dinner, outing, or vacation can derail your financial goals quickly. A system to handle this is setting a clear budget for social activities each month and communicating boundaries confidently. Instead of saying, I can't afford it, which might sound negative, you can frame it as, I'm working toward a big savings goal, so I'm cutting back. Most people will respect that, and those who don't probably don't belong in your financial circle anyway. Replacing expensive hangouts with budget-friendly alternatives also helps you stay connected without compromising your goals. Beyond systems that limit spending, it's also effective to build systems that reward saving. For example, you might set up a visual tracker that shows how much of your income you've saved each month. Watching that percentage climb toward 80% creates motivation that keeps you consistent. Another approach is to create spending buckets for fun money. By allocating a small portion of your 20% allowance toward guilt-free enjoyment, you satisfy the urge to spend without sabotaging your bigger goal. When you know you have a set amount to enjoy, you're less likely to splurge impulsively elsewhere. Over time, these systems reshape your relationship with money. What once felt like a sacrifice starts to feel like control. Instead of buying things impulsively and regretting them later, you're making deliberate choices that align with your goals. Instead of feeling like money slips through your fingers, you feel like every dollar is accounted for and working toward your future. The discipline that comes from these systems becomes part of your identity. You stop thinking of yourself as someone who tries to save and start seeing yourself as someone who is strategic, intentional, and financially independent. The truth is, nobody is immune to impulse spending. It affects everyone, regardless of income level. But those who build systems to prevent it are the ones who succeed at saving massive portions of their income. By adding friction to purchases, enforcing waiting periods, reviewing subscriptions, setting social boundaries, and rewarding saving, you create an environment where it's easier to do the right thing than the wrong thing. That's the secret. Saving 80% isn't just about discipline. It's about designing a life where the path of least resistance is the path to financial freedom.